Well, good morning, everybody. Not only to the members of the media, but to this amazing, amazing representation of Jack's life that is here. It's really, it makes everybody up here feel that we are and have achieved justice for Jack. And indeed, today we did. I'm going to start off my remarks by telling you that what I saw last night at the Elk Grove Village Hall, my eyes and ears have never heard or seen what I saw. Because last night was a show, another movie, another contrived presentation by Mayor Johnson. That was appalling. We didn't go there for approval. It was supposed to be an approval of a settlement, a resolution by the Elk Grove Village Board. Instead, what did we get? Oh, we got an opinion. We got an editorial. We got an explanation. We got a story. Oh, and did I say that we got more excuses? Because that's what it was. It was excuses for what happened to this child. And I'll call him a child because this is their child right here. He will always be their child because he is here today. Because you are bringing Jack with you today. You're manifesting him by being here today. And by Johnson saying that he's disappointed by the settlement, say that to their face. You tell them directly that you're disappointed by a settlement to give something back to this family for the killing of their son by Elk Grove Village Police. It's appalling. He should be ashamed. He said, well, we pray for the family. What do you pray for? What is it that you're actually praying for? It's the first time we've even heard you be a little contrite. What is it that you're really praying for this family? Because your words don't match up to what this settlement matches, does it? $10.5 million. Is it about the money? Well, one part of it is. The other part of it is to give something back to this family for what happened. This is a man that was out there to save his reputation. You know why? Because he stuck his neck out in December of 2023, doubling down and tripling down, defending his village police department for this killing. That's what he was doing. He was trying to save face with his own village population. And he didn't know how to do it other than to give an opinion editorial at last night's village hall. Thank goodness Elk Grove has competent legal counsel, good legal counsel. Because if it wasn't for them convincing this mayor to take the settlement, he is the one who would have exposed the entire village to a verdict maybe far in excess of what this case settled for. And I'll tell you, this press conference never had to happen. It still never had to happen because he still doesn't see it. He's tone deaf. Tone deaf. That this was a child who needed help. He was crying for help. And instead he got 5 bullets. So before going any further, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge Jack's family. What wonderful people. Beyond lovely. And you're going to hear from them shortly. You're going to hear from Mother Donna, from Father Tom, Sister Shannon, and Brother Ryan. And we hope the announcement of this civil settlement for Jack's death will bring some measure of justice, truth, accountability, peace, and closure to this family. I want to be sensitive to the family's experience in our retelling of these painful events. The memories of December 1, 2023 will haunt them forever. Recall, These officers shot Jack with his parents only feet behind him. That emotional trauma, those thoughts will never disappear. Very importantly, I want to thank the members of our legal team. They worked so hard, so diligently, took this case so seriously from the very beginning, and ultimately getting justice for Jack. We've got senior attorneys Josh Levin and Ben Berkman, senior paralegal Dana Condos, and paralegal Houston Ward. Thank you all for being warriors for Jack. Jack was a young man with aspirations for his life, but he struggled with mental illness. Many people do. We hope the takeaway today is that Jack should be the last person to ever die like this. There are lessons for police officers, all who train and manage officers, that a mental health crisis should never be a death sentence. And what concerns me are the words of the mayor last night condoning and endorsing and backing the blue for this killing in the face of a $10.5 million settlement, not understanding the law and why Jack should not have died, but rather been in treatment today, if that was the reason. That's what concerns me, because what the mayor is saying, if you call the police for a mental health issue and you cross a line, you're going to be shot. And if you die, well, that's the consequence of you not obeying. So, to the firm's knowledge, this is the largest reported settlement in a civil suit in Illinois for a police shooting in which the person killed was not a bystander. This settlement contradicts the Mayor of Elk Grove's statement of disappointment last night, as the settlement reflects the tragic loss of life suffered by the Murray family. The tone deafness of the mayor's statement as a representative for all people of this village, it's appalling. No officer was disciplined for Jack's death, and the department found no wrongdoing in its own review. There was discussion last night about all the different layers of review that this case had undergone, that what happened, who reviewed it, what their findings were. Those were all criminal reviews. Here, right here, is the review of civil justice, and that was obtained. Did he mention that? No. So this case was settled through mediation led by Judge Kay Hanlon of ADR Systems in May of 2026. And last night, unanimously, the Elk Grove Village Board approved the settlement despite the mayor's op-ed. From day one, our firm committed itself to the Murray family and their quest for justice and accountability for the tragic killing of their son, Jack. The Murray family never accepted the designed, contrived, and false narrative of the Elk Grove Village officials that its police department acted within the rules and its own policies. The video of this encounter shows why, and no amount of spin on what the eyes can see and the reality of what happened will change that. We would not allow this grieving family to be gaslit by officials who do not understand the law. It is our sincere hope that this settlement brings some measure of closure for the Murray family, who have struggled with their grief and disbelief about Jack's senseless death. Let me go back one more time to last night, and you can see how disturbed I am by what happened last night. Mayor Johnson characterized the officer's conduct as appropriate and compliant with all protocols. and said he was, quote, beyond disappointed at the settlement. Let those words sink in for a little bit. Just think about that. Their conduct was appropriate. The mayor further noted that the village's insurance carriers insisted that the village accept the agreement, noting that their risk analysis concluded the settlement was preferential to facing a Cook County jury at trial. Amazing. Good for the insurance carriers. Good for them that they looked at the risk that the people of Elk Grove Village were going to face if the Murray family did not accept this settlement and this legal team took this case to trial. Imagine the story that would have been told in front of a Cook County jury about Jack suffering from mental illness, mental health, that Jack called the police because he didn't feel well and he was looking for help, that Jack called the very police department that he had called 25 times before that, that Jack was known by name by the Elk Grove Village Police Department, that the officers who shot Jack knew Jack and said, oh, that's Jack Murray. And that when they showed up on the scene, that Jack was limping down the sidewalk very clearly, that the officers knew that if Jack crossed the line, Jack would never walk again. And they shot him. Think of that story in front of a Cook County jury, Mayor. We're telling the story today. The mayor's stated disappointment in the settlement quite simply devalues Jack's life. We will not let that happen. It sends a message to the residents of Elk Grove Village with mental health issues. You're on your own. Don't call the Village of Elk Grove Village Police Department if you're mentally ill. So this settlement, what it does do is reflect the egregiousness of what these officers did and the value of the life they took. Their child, who still had hope. Their brother, who they love and miss. The officers disregarded nearly every bit of training and policy that they are designed to respond to someone like Jack safely without deadly force. Treat him with care. Treat him with help. Treat him with doctors, not with a pistol. So we hope this result sends a clear message, not only back to the officers of Elk Grove Village, because to a great extent, I'll admit, I back the blue too, but only when they act appropriately, only when they follow the rules. If you don't follow the rules, we're going to make you account for that. If your officers meet a person in crisis with bullets instead of care, planning, and de-escalation they are supposed to provide, you'll be held accountable. There's a legal team out there that will hold you accountable. And so now I'd like to turn it over to Attorney Josh Levin for his comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the friends and family of the Murrays for all of your support. I want to start by just saying what a deep honor it is to have represented this family and to have fought for justice for Jack. Tony told you who Jack was, and Tony told you about all the information that the Elk Grove police officers had about Jack on the day of the incident. and how they ignored it. I want to talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of this case and what made this case so strong. I want to focus on what these officers were trained to do and what their own department's policies said they had to do. And then I want to tell you about what the officers did instead. Because under Illinois law, that is a lot of where the strength and power of this case comes from. Under Illinois law, for a plaintiff to hold a police officer civilly liable, the plaintiff needs to show, this family had to show, that these officers' conduct is what's called willful and wanton. Willful and wanton conduct under Illinois law means that the officers had an utter indifference to or conscious disregard for Jack's safety. And that's exactly what the evidence in this case showed. At every stage of the encounter between the officers and Jack Murray, the evidence showed they were indifferent to whether Jack was going to live or die. And it's worth, and this family deserves, for the public to hear what the evidence showed about that. First is the Elk Grove Police Department's own policy. The Police Department of Elk Grove has a good policy for exactly how to handle this situation, a situation where a person is in a mental health crisis and they pose a potential danger to themselves or the officers. Their police department's policy tells officers exactly what to do. It says, speak calmly, try to build rapport with the person, use words to try to bring the person back to reality. Hey, we're here to help, we're 911. It says, call the department's full-time social workers. They are here to deal with a mental health crisis. It says, officers, you need to create time and distance in the encounter. You need to continue to engage the person nonviolently. Try to put a barrier between yourself and the person, and warn the person before you use deadly force. This wasn't just a policy on the shelf. This was a policy that each of the 5 responding officers were trained on from day 1 of their careers. And that's not all. 2 of the 5 officers didn't just have the regular annual training, they were certified crisis intervention team officers, the highest level of certification in the state of Illinois for dealing with someone in a mental health crisis. The lead officer who responded, and we have to say his name, Officer Thomas Keir, the lead officer in charge of the response to Jack Murray was a CIT trained officer. This is not a case where the officers didn't know what to do. This is a case where the officers knew exactly what to do and then chucked that aside. They disregarded their policy and their training and what they knew about Jack. They made no plan for how to deal with Jack, other than rattling off which officer was holding which weapons. They never called the department's full-time on-duty social workers. They drew Jack out of the house toward them. They did not use any of the crisis intervention communication techniques that their own policy requires. Hey, buddy, we're here to help you. Jack, you called for us, we're help. They didn't do any of that, even though they admitted under oath that they had time. They had time to use de-escalation communication techniques, but they admitted they chose not to. The only less lethal weapon that they tried against Jack that day was a taser, even though the officers admitted they knew it was likely the taser would not work because it was winter, it was rainy, Jack was wearing a baggy sweatshirt. They admitted they knew it was likely the taser would not work, and they admitted this too. The only other option, if you can call it that, if the taser didn't work, was to shoot Jack dead. But they had a better option, and they admitted this in their depositions too. They had what's called a beanbag shotgun, a less lethal weapon, the entire purpose of which is to be able to take care of a threat when it's far away from the officers before the person poses a potential deadly threat or the officers might need to use deadly force. Well, one of the officers, one of the 5, had a beanbag shotgun and didn't use it. Didn't use it until a second after the other officers fired their firearms. If you can believe that. Officer Kier, the lead officer of this response, admitted in his deposition that the officers, it would have been helpful to use the beanbag shotgun. The beanbag shotgun should have been used first, but it wasn't. And the officers also never even warned Jack before using deadly force against him, even though that is required under Illinois law. And again, the officers admitted in their depositions. They had time to issue to tell Jack, if you take a step closer, we're going to have to shoot. They admitted they had time. They admitted they chose not to warn him. They admitted. That's important because, as Tony said last night, the mayor of Elk Grove said these officers did nothing wrong. But their own testimony in this case says just the opposite. They testified under oath that they had time to de-escalate but chose not to. They had time to warn Jack, but they chose not to. Their only backup plan was a bullet. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, you don't get to say that they acted flawlessly when they admitted in their depositions that they didn't. There's one more rule in the policy we have to talk about. It's in some ways the most basic of all, which is if you're a police officer and you're engaging with someone that you, given the officer's benefit of the doubt, that they think is a potential deadly threat, they need to reposition themselves. The officers don't just stay put. The officers are supposed to reposition, to put up a barrier, to move backward, to move their feet, to continue to engage the person. These officers did none of that. They called Jack toward them, and then they stood huddled by a tree, frozen apparently, while Jack walked toward them. They stood there like a clump. They never stepped back. They never repositioned. Their own squad cars were right there. They didn't do the simplest thing, which is continue to talk with Jack on the other side of your squad cars. They admitted they could have used their squad cars as a barrier, but they didn't. Why didn't the officers try to reposition? Well, I asked Officer Kier that in his deposition. And this is what he said. He did not reposition because he had drawn, quote, a line in the sand. That's the lead officer's words. He drew a line in the sand. But it was an invisible line because no officer communicated it to Jack. The officers drew an arbitrary line 18 feet away from them that if Jack crossed it, they were going to shoot and kill him. But they never communicated that to Jack. And what was Jack doing? Tony described it for you. He was limping. He was walking slowly. He never charged at the officers. He never ran. This was no sneak attack. He never made a single threat. And none of the officers even told Jack to stop. Standing behind an imaginary line, frozen in place, waiting for a person to cross it so you can shoot them, that is indifference to whether Jack lived or died. And the indifference didn't stop with the first shot. Officer Kier unloaded 4 bullets into Jack's body. And he admitted, Officer Kier admitted in his deposition, he did not pause for a split second to even ask whether the additional bullets were necessary, even though that's exactly what the law says is required. Each bullet is deadly force. Each bullet must be justified by a necessity. Officer Kier, he didn't even ask the question. Before moving on from the policy of this department, just think about what the purpose of the policy is for. The policy is not written for easy cases. The policy is written for hard cases. The policy itself states it comes into play when officers have a mentally ill person who may be a danger. That's the whole point of it. The whole point of its policy is to bring a person like Jack through the situation alive. And that's what makes this case so hard for the Murray family to accept. Because had they followed their policy, Jack would still be alive today. But when you disregard the policy, whose entire purpose is to keep someone alive, that is shrugging your shoulders at whether the person lives or dies. And that's the indifference that those officers met Jack with the day that they killed him. This family cannot begin to describe their courage. After Jack was killed, the police department of Elk Grove, just like the mayor said last night, cleared them of any wrongdoing. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office declined to press charges, but this family said their son and brother's death would not go unanswered. So they stepped up. They waged this litigation, and they were ready and more than willing to stand in front of a Cook County jury, exactly like Tony described, and prove that what happened to their son was wrong. Now, the opposite of courage is what we heard last night from the mayor of Elk Grove. Like Tony said, the mayor, he had a choice last night. He could have leveled with the community about what happened on December 1st, 2023, but he didn't do that. He could not bring himself to admit that these officers had done a single thing wrong, even though the officers themselves admitted that under oath. The mayor told this community that the officers were, quote unquote, completely exonerated by the state's attorney. That's not true. That's not what the state's attorney said. When the Cook County State's Attorney's Office declines to press charges as they did in this case, they put their reasoning in writing and they are clear about what the implications of their legal decision means. So let me be clear. Their declination to bring charges, their statement, written letter, said that its office expresses no opinion on whether civil claims could succeed in this case, because their decision, the state's attorney's decision, is based entirely on criminal laws. It does not limit, that's the state's attorney's office's word, our decision, quote, does not limit civil actions. A decision not to bring criminal charges is not a decision stating that the officers did no wrong. It merely shifts the arena of accountability to the civil justice system, and that's what this settlement shows. And perhaps the most telling thing that the mayor said last night is, he seemed almost proud of it, the insurance carriers for the village are paying every dollar of the $10.5 million of this settlement. Well, think about who those carriers are. Their entire business is measuring risk. They looked at the evidence of this case and they decided it was worth $10.5 million to keep this case from a Cook County jury. The mayor continues to call these officers' actions flawless, but was not willing to put a single dollar of the village's money on the line to prove that to a jury. And that's because he would be held politically accountable for a big defeat. Well, his talk is cheap, but this settlement is not. This settlement sends a clear message, and the mayor better believe that insurance companies do not settle cases for millions and millions of dollars to make conduct disappear that's flawless. No amount of money can ever, ever, ever bring Jack Murray back. But my sincere hope is that this family can rest a little easier knowing the accountability that this case was able to achieve. Thank you very much, and I'm now going to turn it over to Donna Murray, Jack's mother.
Today, June 17th, 2026, marks 929 days, just over 2.5 years, of not having our son Jack in our lives. We are truly fractured. We are broken. And that can never be fixed. We do not want Jack's memory to be of that video. That video the village of Elk Grove put out 2.5 years ago. We want all of you to know him, the real him. Yes, he struggled, but those struggles do not define him. This is who Jack was to all of us in this room and all of us standing here. He was loving, caring, funny, extremely smart. He had the best smile and most loving hugs. That's our Jack. He will be remembered by just being that great, awesome Jack. And he was such an amazing protective brother to both Shannon and Ryan. Jack was always there for them, even when he himself wasn't 100%. That's Jack's true character. That's who Jack was. That's how Jack will be remembered. We as a family unit will be moving forward with ways of helping others in Jack's name to set his legacy in motion. We now would like to thank our entire team at Romanucci and Blandon. Antonio Romanucci, Joshua Levin, Ben Berkman, Dana Condos, Jennifer McGiffin, and Houston Ward for their relentless fight for our son Jack. Thank you all. Thank you. Josh, will you reach hands for me? It's okay, Shan, you don't have to.
I'm now going to read a statement on behalf of Shannon Murray, Jack's sister, Jack's older sister. The loss of you is something I don't think time will ever soften. It still feels catastrophically unreal, like a rupture in everything we understood about how life was supposed to be. No amount of reasoning will ever make your absence feel acceptable, because you were never meant to be gone. We all struggle in some form throughout life, and unfortunately, Jack's struggles were heavier and more consuming than many could ever understand. But that will never define who he truly was. What defines him is his heart, his warmth, and the way he showed up for people in the moments that mattered most. And yet I know you're still here with us, Jack, in the quiet ways, in the way moonlight still spills through the window like it used to, when everything felt easier. In sunsets that paint the sky, the same colors we used to stop and stare at. in the songs we blasted without a care that still come on and bring everything rushing back. In the small, ordinary moments that still somehow feel like you're just on the other side of them. Losing you changed everything. You had a kind of goodness that isn't replaceable, something rare and deeply human. Anyone lucky enough to truly know you carries a piece of you forward, and we will continue your legacy in everything we do.
Thank you. We will take a few questions, but only for attorney's family, as you can see, has been through a lot.
Good morning. Antonio, I mean, obviously you made very clear your feelings about the mayor's statement last night, but what I'd like to ask, I guess, for you is the settlement, as you mentioned, appears to be a record in Illinois. And while the money does not bring Jack back
No.
in any way, do you feel that the amount of the settlement really basically reaffirms what you've been saying all along?
There is no doubt, and thank you for that question, because you are so correct that money will never bring Jack back. It will never fill their lives to what it was when Jack was there. But the money does make a statement as to what the Murray family and what we believed the correct law was that night, and why this was an unnecessary act by this officer when he drew that line in the sand, never told Jack, never warned Jack, and then loaded him up with bullets. Bullets were not the answer to what Jack needed that day. It was help. And so this amount of money does send a clear message. A number over $10 million does raise eyebrows. It should perk up other village managers and other attorneys and other mayors' ears, whether it's cities or villages across Illinois, that officers must follow the rules. And if they don't, there's accountability. And this number defined accountability in a record way.
And I believe that you just mentioned this for the first time, or at least I don't remember either you or Joshua mentioning it before, but in fact that day, did officers ever tell Jack to stop or that they would open fire?
No. There was no warning to Jack that if you don't stop, we're going to shoot you, that if you cross the line that you can't see but that we can, that we will shoot you, or that we're going to harm you. It was just that Jack crossed the line that he didn't know existed and he was shot. So that's why this story is so compelling. Not only is it so compelling from Jack's part, from his point of view, from his eyes, from Donna's and Tom's eyes, who were behind their son watching what happened, but place your eyeballs on the police officer when he took action knowing what he knew about Jack and didn't tell Jack what he was going to do other than intentionally pull the trigger on his gun multiple times.
And we do know for a fact that the officers were never disciplined.
Never disciplined. We know that for a fact.
Do they still work for the department?
Yes, they do. And you should ask, you should be asking, why isn't the Elk Grove Village Chief of Police speaking? Why is the mayor taking lead on accountability for the police department? I get it. He's the mayor. He should be accountable for all things. But where is the police chief who understands policing and has memberships in the major chiefs of police association, who understands these rules? Why is he not made available for speaking, for discussion? Where are his opinions? I think I know what his opinions would be.
You mentioned what the statement from the state's attorney said when they declined to go after charges, but can you explain what it was that made them decline pressing criminal charges?
Well, certainly, I don't know the deliberative process in which they went through to decide not to press criminal charges. But what I can tell you from what I know is in order for a crime to have been committed, there needs to be that criminal level of intent. Now, do I believe that Officer Cure arrived on the scene thinking, I'm going to execute and kill Jack? Probably not. I don't think that's what happened. But certainly we know that he committed some level of civil liability that rose to the level of what's called willful and wanton, just a little bit short of punitive in what he did to Jack. So the state's attorney made it clear. We're declining criminal charges. We don't know that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these officers committed a crime. Fine, we'll respect that. We respect the process. But they also specifically said, our opinion does not reflect the civil liability aspects of this case. And this is the civil liability aspect right here.
One more question, if anyone has
Yeah.
one.
I know the family mentioned some sort of proactive next steps to honor Jack. Is that something that's going to maybe come in the form of scholarship or helping others that are in a similar situation to him?
So what I can tell you is because they are going to do something, and they want to continue his legacy. And I think what they're going to do is something very beautiful, and it will be, I know it will be named in Jack's honor, and we'll let them, when they're ready to discuss it out loud with the public and the press, but I think they're going to do something really nice.
Tony, I know we were here about 2 years ago around this time when you guys filed this litigation. Maybe you could give us a little behind the curtain of how settlement discussions kind of unfolded. Do you believe this was getting close to a jury trial? And at what point in these negotiations, okay, we're gonna settle?
Yeah.
And maybe if this would have gone to a jury, it could have been much more than 10.5.
Sure. We were getting very close to a jury trial. There was a trial set for, is it June 15th? June 1st. June 1st, that's right. There was a trial set for June 1st, and there was some play as to whether that June 1st date would hold or not. Ultimately, the June 1st date did not hold, but we were getting closer to another date for trial. And we clearly felt that the value of this case was excessive. There is no doubt that we felt that the value, based on the story, we knew that there was liability on the part of the officers. But sometimes you have to match up the story with the civil liability aspects of it. And the story behind what the officers did, you can tell, you can feel it in this room by the people that are here supporting. It's so strong, it's so emotional, it's so deep and passionate that we know that there would have been a connection with a jury to this family, and with the finding of liability that we were able to bring, with the admissions that Josh and Ben were able to get out of the depositions of these officers, we knew that we had a strong case. Can I guarantee victory? No, can't do that. Did I feel pretty good about it? Damn right I did. You better believe I did. And the insurance companies and the lawyers for the village, they know our firm. They know that if it's not right, that we'll try the case. And when there is a just result and a little less pain for the family to go through a trial, well, then the right thing is done. And the right thing was done. But the mayor can't say that. He couldn't say that this was a just result, it was a fair result, and that I'm sorry. He didn't say that. He said I have prayers. But he didn't say I'm sorry. I still challenge him. He knows how to find this family. They all do, because they all know the Murrays. Call him and tell him that you're sorry. That might be another step towards accountability. That's what we ask for.
Thank you, everyone.
For the Murray's Army that's here today, can you just stay for a moment? I want to come and just greet everyone.